probably be utilizing week 2 bid, so I want you at least to have some familiarity with the responses. But we'll go into more depth on the responses next week on the week 2s, and we'll talk about what to do if your opponents make a preempt. How do you handle that? How do you bid when they're preempting your hands? Okay? Also, my plan is next week, I think we can probably cover the lesson in a little less time. So I'm going to prepare a few more hands, and we may get the opportunity to play a few more hands next week. Okay? Just depends on how our time goes. And also, starting this week a little bit, but definitely next week, you know, we've been focusing the hands on what the lesson covered. Starting next week, we'll definitely do that, but you're going to have to utilize all the tools that you've been learning in many instances. It just won't be preempts. It'll be a lot of stuff intermingled in there. Okay? All right, so let's start our discussion today on preemptive bids. All right. Most of you probably are vaguely aware, at least, of preemptive bids, but it's a very important tool that you have available to you. A preemptive bid is simply an opening bid at the 2, 3, or 4 level, with the big exception of 2 clubs. And we're going to talk about 2 clubs in our final lesson. That's a strong bid. So 2 clubs is not a preemptive bid, it's a strong bid. But 2 diamonds, 2 hearts, and 2 spades are preemptive bids called weak 2s. And then an opening bid at the 3 or 4 level is a preemptive bid as well. And a preemptive bid says you have a weak hand, and I define it as 5 to 10 points, or sometimes 11. The best thing to remember is, when you preempt, you hold less than a 1 opening level bid. If you can open 1 something, don't preempt, because a preempt tells your partner, hey, Bart, I've got a good suit, but I've got a weak hand. All right? So you have to have a long suit, you should have a weak hand. It's defined by 5 to 10, in parentheses, 11 points. You can also jump over call a preempt. So if your right-hand opponent opens 1 diamond and you bid 2 spades, you jump to level. So that's the same thing as if you had opened 2 spades, the weak 2 bid. So if you skip 1 or more bid levels as an overcaller, that's a preemptive bid. 1 diamond, 3 spades. 3 spades is a weak bid. I have a lot of spades and 5 to 10 points. Okay, so does everybody understand what a preemptive bid is?
Yes. Except the weak hand. Now, we've been taught that it has to be less than 10.
Yeah.
But now you've got in parentheses 11.
I'm saying 5 to 10. That's generally what I use. But if you have a weak 11 points and you can't open the hand, it's okay in some instances to use a weak 2 bid there. What you really don't want to do is open it at 2, a hand that you can open at 1. If you can open a hand at the 1 level, open it at the 1 level. Right?
But that would mean you have to have at least 13.
12 plus your distribution points.
Okay, now back up to the opening bid. You say the 2, the 3, or the 4.
Yes.
But 3 means you had 7 and the 4 means you had 8.
Right here.
Okay.
When you open 2 diamonds, 2 hearts, or 2 spades, the weak 2, you're telling your partner, I have exactly 6 cards. Not 7, not 5, not 8. You have 6. And you have a good suit in the 6-card suit. Now, we've talked about good suits before, particularly with overcalls, saying you need 2 of the top 3 honors. That's not necessarily the case in week 2. You just need a good, solid suit. And also, there's a lot of subjectivity in the week 2 bids. Different teams, different partnerships have different styles. I recommend that you get with your partner and say, okay, we're going to be aggressive in our week 2 bids, or we're going to be very conservative in our week 2 bids. Make sure you're on the same page. Also, another thing that factors into it a great deal, we're going to talk about that in a minute, is vulnerability, okay? Because when you're making a preemptive bid, there's a good chance you may get the contract and go down, okay? Now, if you're doubled, particularly if you're vulnerable, you can lose a lot of points. So you want to be more cautious when you have unfavorable vulnerability. In other words, you're vulnerable and your opponents are not. And you can be a little more aggressive when you have equal vulnerability or favorable vulnerability. So keep those things in mind and develop your own system, how you want to play it, and get in total lockstep with your partner so you are both on the same page.
So
okay?
Steve, if they're vulnerable, you need to...
If they're vulnerable and you're not, that's favorable vulnerability, so you can be very aggressive, okay? Because if you go down, you're not going to lose as many points, okay? If you're vulnerable and they're not, you have to be much more cautious.
I understand a week two, are in threes and fours also be a week bid?
Yeah, these are all preemptive bids. They're all week bids. So an opening bid, and we're not going to talk in too much detail about the threes and the fours tonight. We're going to do that next week. We're going to focus on the week twos. But any bid of the 2, 3, or 4 level, except 2 clubs, says, partner, I have a weak hand and I have a long suit. If you bid 2, you're saying I have exactly 6 cards. If you bid 3, you have 7 cards. If you bid 4, you have 8 cards. Now, a lot of people get gun shy. If they have 8 cards, they still bid 3. You should bid 4, and I'll go over why you should do that next week. Okay?
Well, nobody ever opens a strong 3 or a strong 4?
A strong 3, there is no such thing as a strong 3. Okay? If you have a real strong hand, and we'll talk about this 2 weeks out, you open it 2 clubs. All of these bids,
No matter what.
all of these bids by definition are weak. So if you open 2 diamonds, 2 hearts, 2 spades, those are weak bids. If you open 3 of anything or 4 of anything, that's a weak bid. You do not open those bids with a strong hand. You open 1 of something or 2 clubs. And then you show your strength later. And we'll talk about that in detail 2 weeks out when we talk about 2 clubs. But get it in your head. Just because you have a strong hand, you're just, oh, Bob, I got a lot of spades. You know, I've got a real strong hand. I've got 18 points. I should bid 3 spades to show my partner how strong he is. Don't do that. You bid 1 spade and let the bidding progress. 2 clubs, you have to have 22 points. All right, so let's get back down to the preempts. Keep this in mind. When you make a preemptive bid, you're telling your partner, I hold less than an opening 1 level bid. Okay? If you have an opening 1 level bid, bid it, because otherwise your partner will think your hand is weaker than it is. Okay? You don't want to give your partner misinformation. Okay, so why would anybody ever want to make a preemptive bid?
You want to mess with the opponent.
You want to get there with, right?
I thought it was because you were weak in everything else.
Well, hang on one second. Okay, there's 3 or 4 reasons why you would want to open preempt. Okay? You want to disrupt your opponent's ability to find the right contract. So if you've got a long spade suit and not very many points, your partner may have some points, but chances are your opponents have most of the points, right? So you want to get in their way. You just don't want to have them a clear path where they can just march up to whatever they want to get to. So if you start in there and say 3 diamonds, if you have a long diamond suit, then they have to start their bidding at the 3 level. You've made it very difficult for them to end up in the right contract. That's not saying they won't ultimately find it, but it's much more difficult. So that's a primary reason to do it. Another reason to do it is it describes your hand to your partner in 1 bid. If I say 3 spades, that's my opening bid, what did I just tell you I have?
8 spades.
I did 3 spades.
You said 7.
If I open 3 spades, I got 7 spades, a decent spade suit, okay, and how many points do I have? Yeah, less than an opening hand, right? So I have fully described my hand to my partner. Okay, now another one, and this is sometimes a little confusing to learn, but as you play more and more and you get into the higher level games, sometimes it's smart to make a sacrifice bid. And by that I mean a bid that you know with almost certainty you're going to go down. But by making that sacrifice, you keep your opponents out of a game contract, all right, that they're going to make. And you end up making a better score by doing that. Now let me show you how this works. Now follow this. This can be a little confusing, but it's a very important thing in the scoring of duplicate bridge. I hear people say, well, you know, we made all our game contracts, but we still got a low score. That's because you didn't score as well on the same hands as your opponents did. You're all playing the same hands. So let's just look at when you should sacrifice. All right, so let's say your opponents are not vulnerable and they make a 3-no trump or a 4 major contract. On your side of the ledger, you're going to lose 400 points there and 420 there. Do you see that? Everybody understand that? Okay, if they're vulnerable, you're going to lose 600 or 620. So if that hand's over and they make 6, if they make that game 4 hearts and they make 4, they get 620. And let's say somebody, another player, table made an overtrade. So whoever played down is minus 650. right? These are all going to be compared. Now let's say you're more aggressive here, and you've got a real long spade suit, all right? And you bid 3 spades, and maybe you end up in 4 spades. You have no real expectation of making that contract, but is that a good play? Well, let's look. Let's say you're in a contract that your opponents know you can't make. What's the one thing you should do if your opponents are in a contract you're almost positive they can't make? Double for penalties, okay? So you do that, you step out, they double you, and then they defeat you. You go down. You actually don't make your contract. If you're not vulnerable, if you go down 1, you lose 100 points. If you go down 2, you lose 300 points. If you go down 3, you lose 500 points. So let's say you did 4 spades, they double you, you're defeated 3 contracts, you lose 500 points. Guess what? That's better than that, isn't it? When they tally these scores, this is first place, second place, third place. So even though you went down 3, you did better on that hand than the people who made the bid. All right? Now let's look at your vulnerable. You have to be more careful if you're vulnerable. Same thing. If you go down 1 vulnerable double, you lose 200. If you go down 2, you lose 500. If you go down 3, you lose 800. So if you go down 3, you don't want to be there because that puts you up here, right? But you can go this far, right? So the rule is, if you have favorable vulnerability, you're not vulnerable and your opponents are, you can afford to be in a contract where you go down 3. Okay? If you're not, if you're even vulnerability or unfavorable, you can afford to go down 2. And if you do that, you'll end up with a better score than your people, your opponents who are going to be the game. Does everybody understand that? That's why you would sacrifice. All right? All right, now, let's just get into the hands here. This is really the most straightforward part of it, is when do I bid?
Now, one thing you didn't mention here.
What's that?
Maybe confusing it, but don't you also have to have a couple of top honors?
Well, what I said is you need a good hand, and as opposed to overcalls. In overcalls, I like to say you should have 2 of the top 3 honors, at least Jack, King, Jack, 10, or something like that. In week 2s, you don't necessarily have to have 2 of the top 3 honors. You just need a solid suit. And if you're vulnerable, the suit should be more solid. So that's subjective. What's solid? Okay, well, let's just look at solid. Let's just say this. These are 4 different 6-card suits. They could be anything, all right? But you're considering opening, let's say this is diamonds. All of them are diamonds. So you're considering opening 2 diamonds. Is that a good solid suit?
No.
I don't think so. I wouldn't open that.
That's
Now,
to
maybe
be marginal.
it'd be marginal, and if you and your partner say, we're really going to be aggressive when we're not vulnerable, maybe the 2 of you agree that's okay. Personally, I would not open that to a week 2 bid. How about here? I don't think that's good enough either. You've got 1 honor, this is a low honor, and a bunch of little cards. All right? How about here? That's solid suit. You got 3 honors, same way here. Solid suit. So do you see the distinction there? Once again, when you're not vulnerable, you can stand to be a little more aggressive. When you're vulnerable, you need to be more conservative.
So the one with just a king, it's more you think that's,
You've got 10, 9, 8. These hands are comparable. Okay? And I think they're both good enough to open up to personally. Okay? And neither of them have 2 of the top 3 honors. Okay? Clearly, if you have 2 of the top 3 honors, it's good enough to open up to. Okay, so where are we? Let's get this out of the way. All right, so let's look at a few other hands. Here's your hand. What would you open this hand?
One spade.
How many points do you have?
12, 11.
You've got 6,
Oh,
7.
which one are you looking at?
6, 7, 11, 12 points. Right?
12.
1 spade. How about this one?
You have
7.
I did, I don't
Just
think.
2 separate
2
marks.
spades.
Oh, okay. Well,
Oh,
that's
okay.
Oh,
So it's 13 points. How many points do you have here?
7.
7.
left one.
7, 8,
8,
9. What do you open that?
2
2
spades.
spades.
2 spades. That's a perfect two-spade open bid. Okay? If you've got an opening hand, don't open week 2. Right? Open one spade. If you open week 2, your partner's going to think you have fewer points than you really do. Okay, now if you read about week 2s on the internet and such, a lot of different experts have slightly different opinions of what the point range should be and what a good hand is and all this type of stuff. And there's a couple of things that will come up a lot if you read very much about this, and that is whether you should or shouldn't open a week 2 if you have a void or an outside ace, like this. You have a void. Or whether you should open or not open week 2 if you have an outside 4-card major. So let's talk about that and what we should do. All right, first of all, how many points, what would you open this hand right here?
8, 9, 10 points. And then do you count your,
If you don't count the void, you
Count
count
Two
the way.
spades. Okay.
You have 6, 8, 9, 10 points.
2 spades.
So you have a full way. Yeah, this is okay, 2 spades.
Would it also be okay to open one spade?
Not with this, you don't have enough points. You've got 10, 8, 9, you've got 6, okay, you have 5, 8, 9, 10 points. You should not open that hand with only 10 points. Okay, you open that 2 spades. How about this one? You've got 9, 11, 12, 13.
One spade.
That's 1 spade, right? Now, the reason I keep doing the 1 spade, 2 spades, there's a lot of hands that are right on the cusp there. Be careful. If your hand's strong enough to open 1, open 1. Don't open 2 just because you have 6 in the suit. Okay? Now let's talk I'm sorry? Did someone
I
ask you?
thought we just had 10 points,
Where?
because we're not going to count the void, right?
No.
No, we're gonna
Right
count
here,
the
you've
line.
got 5, 8, 11, 12, 13 points.
Oh, I copied it wrong.
So the length in the spades gives you points.
Right. When you're the opening bidder, you count your length. Your 5th card and every card subsequent to that, in addition to that, is worth a point. Okay? Now, we had talked about, do you open a week 2 with a outside 4-card major? So in this hand, how many points do you have?
8, 9, 10.
You have 10. So it meets the definition of the length, the strength of the suit, but you have a 4-card major that has 2 honors in it. Okay, I would recommend not opening this. The reason why, your partner may have the same 4-card major, and you may miss game in a major suit. So if you have a good outside 4-card major, I recommend not opening a week 2. All right, now if the 4-card major is
Would you
weak,
open one spade then?
well, here you pass. Yeah.
You pass there?
So what do you do?
Pass
Yes,
the
you
number
pass.
for them
But
to.
You have
can
10
you do it
points.
again later?
Well, if your partner opens, you've got 10 points. Hopefully he's going to open a heart. Okay?
That's fine.
And then you're in business.
Or even if he opens a diamond, you come back with a heart.
If he does, yeah, sure. Well, if he opens a diamond, you're going to do it.
Well,
Because you only have
Yes,
or if he's strong in spades, that might be.
Well, I mean, there's all kinds of scenarios here, but the thing to take from this is that if you have a strong 4-card outside major, I recommend not opening week 2 because too frequently you may make it impossible, very difficult to ever find game if it's there in this major suit. Okay? However, if your major 4-card suit looks something like that, you know, go for it. You have 2 spades. Okay? Once again, there's some degree of subjectivity here, and you have to decide for yourself how you want to handle all of these situations. The one thing though I would highly make sure you follow is don't open any hand that you can open 1 with a preemptive bid. Always open your full opening hands with one of a suit or 2 clubs,
So
or 1 no trump.
if you don't open,
Yes.
and you're the opening bid, and this person bids something,
Yeah.
and then your partner doesn't bid anything,
Yeah.
when it comes back to you, can you
You can jump.
then do a preempt?
Yep. If it's appropriate. You know, I don't know what the situation is.
Right, but I
That
mean,
doesn't, just because you don't open doesn't mean you can't bid.
doesn't mean you can't preempt
It
later.
doesn't mean you can't bid whatever's appropriate at the time it comes around to you.
Okay.
But in this instance, I would prefer to pass rather than open
Right.
in two spades.
And you give your partner a
Chance
chance
to
to
say
express
Right.
what he has.
Right, exactly. Okay? Let's see. All right, now there's another important thing to consider. I mean, as opposed to the other bidding sequences we've been talking about, is that you have so many points, you have a weak hand, you have an intermediate hand, you have a maximum hand, all these types of things. But when you're opening preemptive bids, you have to consider your partnership style and whether you're vulnerable. There's another thing you need to consider, and that's what seat you're sitting in. Okay? So we're talking about, if you're the dealer, I recommend a certain technique. If you're in the second seat, that means the dealer's passed. After one pass, it goes pass, now it's your turn. The third seat, it goes pass, pass, and it's your turn. Or the fourth seat, pass, 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 and it's your turn. Okay? And you have a preemptive hand. All right? If you're the dealer, the first person, you can be aggressive. All right? That means you can open with a weaker preempt if you want. And the reason why is this. The purpose of a preempt is to get in the way of your opponents, right? You're preempting your bid. So when you're the first person, you're preempting two opponents. Right? And your partner may have a good hand, but in the first seat, you're preempting two opponents. You're getting in the way of two people who may have a good hand. Right? So that's a smart bid. Now, if you're in the second seat after one pass, what do you think your strategy should be? Now, you know the first person doesn't have a good hand because they just passed, right? So that means you don't have a good hand, right? That leaves two people that could have a good hand, right? Your partner and the other person, right? So there's a 50-50 chance your partner has the best hand of the group. So you have to be more cautious here. You need a stronger hand to do that. By stronger suit. Because you run a greater risk of preempting your partner. Okay? After two passes, you're in the third seat. Pass, pass, your turn. Is that good or bad position for you?
Or you'd want to be more aggressive, but you wouldn't want to necessarily do a preempt, but you'd want to maybe bid it at a low
Well,
level.
you've got a preemptive hand.
Yeah.
You don't have an opening hand, all right? You're sitting in the third seat, and you're holding a hand like this, not this one, okay? You've got a preemptive hand. All right, it goes pass. So if you're in your third seat, who's the first person that passed? Your partner passed, one opponent passed, and now you're bidding right here.
So the fourth seat has the points.
This is the point.
Yeah.
Okay? And your partner doesn't. The partner's always already passed. She passes. So this is where you can be most aggressive because you know this person is the person that probably has the most points. Okay? Now you're in the fourth seat. Pass, 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 and you're sitting right there.
So there's no one to preempt, you pass.
No one to preempt. Very good. Okay? There is a bid you can make here. If you've got 10 to 13 points and a 6-card suit, you can bid 2. All right? 2. So if you've got 6 spades and you've got exactly 10 to 13 points, you can bid 2 spades, which tells your partner just that. I have 10 to 13 points in 6 spades. Okay? You would open that hand 1 spade and get the other seat. Okay, you want me to draw that hand up here? Okay, so let's say we got ace, queen, jack. How many is that? 6, 7, 10, 12. Well, I'm going to end up with 2 men because of the. So we've got 6, 7, 10, 11, 12. Is that right? 6. Okay. So you've got 6, 7, 10, 11, 12 points in 6 spades. Okay. You can open that in 2 spades in the 4th seat. But if you don't have between 10 and 13 points, you pass in the 4th seat. There's no reason to make a preemptive bid in the 4th seat. When you make a, quote, preemptive bid in the 4th seat, you're showing some strength.
What would be the benefit of doing that in the fourth seat?
This one?
Yeah,
Okay, well, first of all 3 people have passed.
right,
So nobody has an opening hand.
right.
So the points are probably evenly distributed around the table, or close to it, right? You've got a real nice suit here. If you and your partner have half the points or even slightly less, you can probably make 2 spades, maybe even 3 spades. So why pass it out when you can make 2 spades? If you pass it out, you get 0 points in the score. If you bid and make 2 spades, you get 110 points.
The point of doing 2 spades versus 1 spade
One
is to
spade.
just let them know it's weak.
Well, just to tell him exactly what you have. It's just a very specific bid. So you can convey all of that information in one bid.
So that's standard American?
I believe so.
Okay, so that's not something that you would alert or anything like
No.
that?
No, I believe so. Okay.
So, okay. So if you had 14 points, then you would bid 1 spade.
You did what? 1 spade. If you just have an opening hand in the 4 suit, you just open. Okay. But if you've got 7 diamonds and 8 points and you're in the 4 suit, you probably won't pass that. Okay. Okay.
So many contradictions. There's so many accepts in bridge, you know?
Well, there are, but this is really pretty straightforward if you think about it, because we're very specific in what the point range is.
Right.
We're very specific in the number of cards you have to have, so it's just a matter of discernment. Is my suit good enough to bid?
But
Yes
I
or
mean,
no?
this last one where you.
Well, the last one goes off on a little bit of a tangent, right? But the main thing to remember here, in the 4th seat, you don't bid a preemptive bid.
Okay.
A 2-level bid there means you have some points. Okay, 4 seat passes. All right, let's see where we are here. Okay, so let's just look at some of these. Okay, so we talked about the seat you should be in. That would be number 5. Okay, so this is your hand here, and you're the dealer. What do you do with this? Everybody, anybody want to do anything, or are we going to pass this? I would pass this. You've got 6, 7, 8 points in a very weak suit. Right? Pass. How about here? But you've got 3, 7, 8, 9 points.
1 spade.
Okay, 2 spades.
Yeah, I think 2 spades is good here. How about here?
You're 13 points, so 1 spade.
You got 13 points? One spade. You've got a lot of playing strength here. You've got void. This is a good one spade. Okay? How about here?
2 diamonds.
It's a good suit.
No,
That's a good suit. I got 2 diamonds.
Okay.
You've got the point requirements, you've got 5, 6, 7 points, and a good suit. That's the same thing about what's in the other suits. Generally, most of your points in the preemptive bid should be in the suit that you're bidding. All right. Now, in this instance, your right-handed opponent passes. So it goes pass, and now you're the bidder. And you're vulnerable and your opponents are not. You have unfavorable vulnerability. So if you go down, you're going to lose more points. So they passed, you're holding this. It's a little marginal. I mean, you've got a couple of kings, but you don't really have much here. So I think you need to have a stronger hand here to get 2 hearts in this
Because
instance.
of being on.
Now, in the 3rd seat, you may open 2 hearts there, because you can be more aggressive. In the 2nd seat, you have to be more careful. All right? So you would pass this. How about this one right here? 2 diamonds? 2 diamonds sounds right to me. After 3 passes, and this is what we were talking about.
Is that the 4th seat?
This is the 4th seat, or the 4th seat. Pass, 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 your turn. You've got 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'd pass those personally. And here you've got 6, 9.
Now, the reason you
2
pass that is
spades.
that those 2 queens are not in here.
Yeah, this is pretty weak. That's pretty weak. Okay. Here you can open 2 spades.
You open 2 or 1?
2.
Here, let's see what we have. 6, 9, 11, 12, 13. You can open 1 spade there. If you have, how many you have? 13?
15.
Okay, 13. So 10 to 13. You're in the range, so you can get 2 spades there. It's been 3 passes to you. You know everybody has less than an opening hand. You're sitting there with an opening hand. You can define your hand very specifically with a 2 spade. If you bid 1 spade, you could have 13 to So, you know,
You can only have five.
5 spades.
and you got, when you bid 2 spades in the 4C, you're saying you got 6 of your suit, 6 spades, and 10 to 13 points. It's a very specific bid.
So even though
Oh,
you
it does
have
have to
pretty
do
good
that.
spades, you still want to make a weak bid.
I'm sorry?
I mean, your spade suit is